You are sitting behind a glass desk on the 40th floor, and your hands are shaking before you even know why. The folder in front of you has 12 names in it. 12 people who applied for the lowest position in your entire company: a janitor, someone to mop floors and empty trash cans in a building with your name etched into the marble lobby downstairs. Most CEOs would never see this folder. Most CEOs would let human resources handle it, sign off on a hire without ever learning a single face. But you are not most CEOs, and you have never once let anyone else make this decision for you. Not since the day you built this company from nothing but a promise you made when you were 9 years old. Your assistant, Thessaly, slides the final resume across the table, and you almost don't look at it. You almost reach for your coffee instead, but something makes you glance down, and the moment your eyes hit the name typed at the top of the page, the entire room goes silent inside your head. Corwin Blackwood. Your coffee cup stops halfway to your lips. Your fingers go cold around the porcelain. You set it down so carefully that Thessaly notices, tilts her head, asks if you're all right, and you don't answer her because you can't. Because that name, that exact name, has lived inside your chest for 20 years, buried under boardrooms and stock prices and a life you built brick by brick so that you would never again feel as small and as powerless as you did the night everything almost ended. You were 9 years old. You lived in a narrow house on the edge of a town called Havenridge, the kind of town where the winters came early and the paychecks came late. Your father, Emery Kingsley, worked double shifts at a machine shop, and some nights he'd come home so tired he'd fall asleep, still wearing his boots. You didn't have much, but you had him, and you had a small bedroom with a window that looked out over a cornfield, and you thought that was enough. Until the night the wiring in the walls gave out. You remember waking up to smoke first, not fire, a thick gray smell that crawled under your door and filled your lungs before your mind understood what was happening. You remember screaming for your father, and you remember him bursting through your door with his shirt already scorched, scooping you up, and then the hallway collapsing into flame behind you so fast that there was no way out. No window low enough, no door that wasn't already swallowed. You remember your father's arms tightening around you, not to save himself, but to shield you, because in that moment he had already decided that if only one of you was going to survive, it would be you. And then there was a voice cutting through the smoke, low and steady, telling you both to get down, to stay low, to trust him. A young volunteer firefighter, barely more than a teenager himself, had broken through the back window with nothing but his bare hands and a wet jacket wrapped around his face. He pulled you out first, then he went back in for your father, even as the older men behind him screamed at him that the roof was coming down, that it was too dangerous, that no one could survive going back in. He went back in anyway. He carried your father out on his shoulders, through a hallway that collapsed for seconds after they cleared it. For seconds. You have never in your life stopped thinking about those for seconds. You don't remember his face clearly. You were 9, and it was dark, and there was smoke burning your eyes, but you remember his voice. You remember him kneeling beside you on the frozen grass, while paramedics worked on your father, brushing your hair back from your face, telling you that you were safe now, that everything was going to be all right, that your father was strong, and he was going to make it. You remember asking him his name, because even at 9 years old, you understood that you needed to know it, that you needed to hold on to it. He told you Corwin Blackwood, and then, in the chaos of ambulances and neighbors and a house turning to ash behind you, he disappeared. He was 18, a volunteer, not even on the official roster yet. Some records say he was never even signed in that night. By the time your father recovered, by the time your family moved 3 towns over into a rented apartment above a hardware store, you tried to find him. You wrote letters to the fire department. You called information lines. You were a child with no resources and a name that led nowhere, because Corwin Blackwood had vanished from Havenridge not long after that night, and nobody seemed to know where he'd gone. Your father lived He lived long enough to see you graduate high school, long enough to see the small logistics company you started in your 20s begin to grow, long enough to hold your hand in a hospital bed 19 years later and tell you, with his last clear breath, that the greatest gift of his life wasn't the years he got afterward, it was watching you grow into them. He told you to find that young man someday, to thank him properly, to let him know that the 4 seconds he risked changed the entire shape of the world that came after. You built an empire in the years since. Kingsley Vantage became one of the largest names in commercial real estate and logistics in the country. And every single year on the anniversary of that fire, you have quietly had your team search for any record of a Corwin Blackwood who once lived in Haven Ridge. Every year led nowhere. Fire departments don't always keep records of unregistered volunteers. People change towns, change lives, sometimes change names through marriage or misfortune. You had almost let yourself believe you would go the rest of your life without ever getting the chance to say thank you. And now, his name is sitting on a resume for a janitorial position in your own building. You asked Thessaly to bring him in herself, personally, right now, and something in your voice must sound different, because she doesn't ask questions. She just goes. The minutes before he walks in are the longest minutes of your adult life. You stand up, you sit back, down, you smooth your blazer, then realize your hands are trembling and press them flat against the desk instead. You keep telling yourself it could be a different Corwin Blackwood. It's not an impossible name, though it is a rare one, rare enough that in 21 years of searching, you never once found another person who carried it. The door opens. He is not 18 anymore. He is somewhere in his late 30s now, tall, with the kind of tired, weathered face that belongs to a man who has carried more than his share of weight for a very long time. There's a slight stiffness in the way he walks, a limp he tries to hide, and calluses on his hands that speak of hard, physical work. He's wearing a clean but clearly old collared shirt, the kind a man puts on for an interview because it's the nicest thing he owns. He looks nervous. He looks like a man who has been knocked down more times than he deserves and is still, somehow, standing back up. He introduces himself, and the moment his voice fills the room, something inside your chest cracks open. It's older now, rougher around the edges, but it's the same voice. The same voice that told a terrified 9-year-old girl on frozen grass that everything was going to be all right. You ask him to sit. Your own voice comes out steadier than you expect, though your heart is pounding so hard you're certain he can hear it. You ask him where he's from. He tells you Havenridge originally, though he hasn't lived there in over 2 decades. You ask him if he ever did any volunteer work as a young man. He pauses, surprised by the question, maybe a little embarrassed, and tells you that yes, a long time ago, he ran with the volunteer fire crew for about a year before life took him in a different direction. He says it quietly, almost like it doesn't matter, like it was just a small chapter of a much harder life. You ask him why he stopped. He tells you, and his voice tightens as he does. There was a fire, a bad one, a father and daughter trapped inside. He got them both out. But the department found out afterward that he wasn't officially certified yet, that he'd gone in against protocol, that if anything had gone wrong, the liability would have fallen on people who never should have let an unlisted 18-year-old anywhere near that building. They didn't punish him exactly, but they quietly eased him out, told him to come back once he was properly trained. He never did. Life got complicated. His mother got sick. He took factory work instead to help pay her medical bills, and firefighting became a door that quietly closed behind him. He tells you all of this like it's just background information, like it isn't the single most important fact you have needed to hear for 21 years. He has no idea. He has absolutely no idea that the girl he carries no memory of by name is sitting across the desk from him right now, in a tailored blazer, running a company worth more than he could imagine, because he refused to leave without her father. You ask him, carefully, gently, If he ever wonders what happened to that little girl, something shifts in his face. He tells you he thinks about that night more than almost anything else in his life. He tells you he never knew if the father made it, that he left before anyone could tell him, because the department pulled him aside and the ambulance was already gone by the time he could ask. He says it's one of the only regrets that still visits him at night. Not knowing. Your throat closes. You have to look down at your desk for a moment before you can speak again. You ask him about his life now, and this is where his voice changes completely, softens into something fierce and protective. He tells you about his son, while 9 years old, the same age you were that night, though he doesn't know that either. He tells you Wilder's mother passed away 3 years ago, after a long illness, and since then, it has been just the two of them, learning how to survive together. He tells you he worked construction until an accident on a job site left him with a knee that doesn't bend the way it used to, and since then, work has been hard to find. He tells you he's applied to over 40 jobs in the last 4 months. He tells you this is the first interview that's called him back. He tells you he needs this job, not once needs. He tells you Wilder is proud of him, no matter what. And that's the thing that keeps him standing some mornings when nothing else does. But that he is tired, so tired, of feeling like he's failing the one person in this world he'd walk through fire for all over again. You already know he would. You are living proof of it. You sit there for a long moment, and he must think he's said too much, because he starts to apologize, starts to straighten up, to pull the interview back towards something professional. But you hold up a hand, and you finally say the words you have been holding inside your chest for over 2 decades. You tell him your name was once Odessa Kingsley of Havenridge. You tell him about a house on the edge of a cornfield. You tell him about smoke, about a hallway that collapsed for seconds after he cleared it, about a 9-year-old girl on frozen grass who never forgot his voice, even when she couldn't remember his face. You watch the recognition break across him like sunrise. You watch this strong, tired, quietly broken man's composure finally give way, his eyes filling, his hand pressing over his mouth as 2 decades of not knowing collapse into this one single moment of finally knowing. He asks if it's really you. He asks if your father lived. And when you tell him, yes, that your father lived 19 more years, that he held your hand in a hospital bed and asked you to find the young man who gave them to him, that everything you have built, this company, this tower, this entire life, exists because of 4 seconds, he will never remember as anything more than instinct. He breaks down completely, and so do you. And for a moment, neither of you are a billionaire CEO and a struggling single father applying for a janitor's position. You are simply 2 people who have been carrying the same fire for 21 years, from opposite ends of it. You do not offer him a mop and a set of keys to the supply closet. You tell him that Kingsley Vantage has an entire division dedicated to emergency logistics and safety training, and that it has never had the right person to run community outreach for it, someone who understands in his bones what it actually means to walk into danger for someone else. You tell him there's a position waiting for him there, one with a salary that will let him stop choosing between rent and groceries, one with health coverage that will finally take care of that knee the way it should have been cared for years ago. You tell him that Wilder's education from this day forward is taken care of fully for as long as he wants it, not as charity, but as a debt finally being repaid, 21 years overdue with interest only love could calculate. He tries to refuse at first. Men like him always do. He tells you he didn't come here for a handout, that he doesn't want you to feel obligated, and you tell him, with tears still on your face, that this was never an obligation. This is what happens when a promise made beside a fire finally gets to walk back into the light. That evening, you leave the office earlier than you have in years. You drive, not to your penthouse, but to a small apartment on the other side of the city, where a 9-year-old boy named Wilder opens the door because his father asked him to answer it while he finishes a phone call. The boy looks up at you, uncertain, polite, despite clearly not expecting company, and something about his eyes, steady, a little too old for 9, a little too used to worry, makes your chest ache all over again. You kneel down to his level, the way a young man once knelt beside you on frozen grass, and you tell him that his father is one of the bravest people you have ever known in your entire life. You tell him that long before Wilder was born, his father ran into a burning house to save 2 strangers, and that one of those strangers grew up to never, ever forget it. Wilder looks past you, toward his father, standing in the doorway with tears he isn't bothering to hide anymore, and he asks him if it's true. Corwin tells his son that it's true. He tells him that sometimes the good you put into the world disappears from your own memory, but it never disappears from the world itself. It just waits, sometimes for 21 years, but it always finds its way back. You stay for dinner that night. Simple food, a small table, laughter that feels more honest than any gala you've attended in years. And as you sit there, watching a father who has given everything he has to a son who adores him, watching a boy who has no idea yet how much his life is about to change for the better, you understand something your own father tried to tell you 19 years ago. In that hospital room, the 4 seconds a stranger gives you in the worst moment of your life can become the entire foundation of everything good that comes after. And if you are lucky, if you are patient, if you never stop looking, you get the chance, one day, to give those 4 seconds back. You didn't hire a janitor that day. You found the man who taught you, before you could even walk into your first classroom, what it truly means to run toward the fire for someone else. And 21 years later, sitting at that small kitchen table, watching his son laugh at something you said, you finally understood that some debts were never meant to be paid back in money. They were meant to be paid back in family.
Every act of kindness leaves a mark, even when we don't see it right away. This story is a reminder that good things do come back around. If it moved you, share it with someone who needs a little hope today.